Good morning, fifth graders. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to learn about some more geometry. Hopefully you enjoyed triangles yesterday. Look, I got a new little stress, what do you call this? Stress reliever. Some kids in distance learning had these as we were doing our lesson. I'm like, what is that thing that's all colorful? And they said, look, you just push in the different little sections, I guess, whatever we want to call it, and then you just pop them back. You just do that all day and it relieves all your stress. So that's what I'm doing because things are a little stressful. All right, so there's some big news for all of you out there. First of all, apparently today is the day that the fish racetrack comes. So Rodolfo came through. I have seen pictures of it, and I think the fish racetrack's coming. So that means on Thursday, the kids that are coming cohort B, you might just be able to see it. And then when cohort A, you guys get back from spring break, I think you're going to be able to see the fish racetrack. So that's something fun. Also, we're going to kick off coding and game design tomorrow. So be ready in our 2 rotations. You know how we flip. I'll see all of you guys tomorrow at the 11 o'clock class. So make sure that you're there. Okay. With that news said, let's dive right into day 2 of learning a little geometry. Today's about quadrilaterals. So let me reduce how big I am. Take a look at that picture right there. What is that thing called? What do you call that thing? An ATV. Good job. An all-terrain vehicle. What else do you call it? Many people call it a quad. Like, hey, let's go quadding. I'm going to go on my quad. I got a new quad. Quad means 4. So the reason I showed you that picture is today you're going to learn about quadrilaterals. Lateral means side, quad means 4. So quadrilateral is 4-sided. So we're going to talk about classifying. Classifying means to put into groups. We're going to put into groups 4-sided shapes. Yesterday you did 3-sided shapes called triangles with a first and last name, right? One by the sides, one by the angles. And today you're going to classify by 4-sided shapes. Mostly just by, wait, is it by? I guess a little bit by angles, but mostly by sides. Okay, so let's dive into a Think Central video quick, a nice short one, because again, it shows you some great examples.
Let's see how you can classify different types of quadrilaterals.
Let's unlock the problem.
Let's unlock this problem.
Let's.
There are special types of quadrilaterals. You can classify quadrilaterals by their properties, such as parallel sides and perpendicular sides. Parallel lines are lines that are always the same distance apart. Perpendicular lines are lines that intersect to form 4 right angles. A quadrilateral has 4 sides and 4 angles. Let's complete the sentences that describe the different types of quadrilaterals.
It says a parallelogram has opposites something that are blank and parallel. A lot of words.
A parallelogram has opposite sides that are congruent and parallel. Now let's look at a rectangle.
Now, I wish I could have paused that. I didn't pause it quick enough. But it says congruent and parallel. So why don't you all show me parallel lines with your arms? Parallel lines are 2 lines that will never touch. They don't have to be up and down. They can be sideways like railroad tracks. They can be diagonal. The point is that if they go on forever, they never touch. So let's think of some parallelograms. A parallelogram would be a square. Think squares. Sides never touch, right? Opposite sides will never touch. Let's think of rectangles, like just a longer square, basically. Never touch. Let's think of a rhombus, which is like a slanted square, right? Slanted square this way and this way, never gonna. And even a slanted rectangle, which is called a parallelogram by itself, which is kind of confusing because all those other things are also parallelograms. That also does. And then remember from yesterday, congruent means the same size, exactly the same size.
A rectangle is a type of parallelogram. It has 4 right angles.
So let's see. Is this a parallelogram? Again, what is a parallelogram? It has 2 sets of parallel lines. So here's one set, right? These 2 sides. And then it has another set, the top and bottom. So it has 2 sets of parallel lines. And then this says it has 4 pairs of perpendicular lines. It basically just means it has 4 right angles. Remember how we did that with our arms yesterday? A right angle goes straight up and down. Basically, it has corners. Look, rectangle has 4 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all perfectly right angles.
And 4 pairs of perpendicular sides. Another type of parallelogram is a rhombus.
Okay, what is a rhombus? Let's see what that is. I think it's going to be a parallelogram, right? It's a parallelogram. How is it different than a rectangle or a square? It doesn't have any right angles. Look, there's no perfect L's. This is acute, obtuse, acute, obtuse. So it's going to be because the problem is you have to be able to take these 4-sided shapes and not just know the name, say what else they are. Some things are up to 4 things. They're going to have up to 4 names. All right, so let's keep going.
A rhombus has 4 congruent sides. Next, let's take a look at a square. A square is also a parallelogram. It has 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles.
Right? 4 sides that are the same.
A trapezoid is a quadrilateral.
The whole big thing is this is the one that's different. And when we do our notes in a second, you're going to see this is the big one that's different because all of the other ones have 2 sets of parallel lines, but this one only has 1 set of parallel lines because the top and bottom will never meet, but the sides will. Because look, this is going slanted, this is going straight up. If they continued in their path, they'd cross. See, exactly only 1 pair.
A trapezoid has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. Now, let's look at the types of quadrilaterals found in the seating chart. There are parallelograms, rectangles, rhombuses.
Rhombus sounds like a diamond or a kite.
And trapezoids.
So first we just have to know the names. So let's go over the names of these quickly again. So this was parallelogram. Why? Because it's basically like a slanted rectangle. And how do you know this is a rectangle and not a square like this one? A slanted square, even though they look very similar. It's because this one right here only has, you see how this side and this side are equal, and then this side and this side are equal. If all 4 sides are equal, it's a square, right? But if only opposite sides are equal, it's a rectangle. So that's why this is called a parallelogram. This is a rectangle. Why is this one a rectangle and not a parallelogram? It actually is a parallelogram because the definition of a parallelogram is that it has 2 sets of parallel lines, but it's also called a rectangle. It's also called a quadrilateral. Why? Because it has 4 sides. It's also called a polygon. That's a word we didn't talk about yet. We're going to put in our notes. Polygon just means multi-sided shape. So basically, a triangle or any shape that has more sides than a triangle is called a polygon. So just think of the word polygon meaning shape. So right now, this thing can be a quadrilateral. It could be a rectangle. It could be a parallelogram. It could be a polygon. That's a lot of names. All right, this is a rhombus. It's like a diamond or a kite. Now look at the difference between this one and this one, the first one and the third one. They look very similar just because of how they're drawn. But because of these tally marks, this one says all of the sides are the same. So if all of the sides are the same, this is really like a square, but a slanted square. And it does have, it's a parallelogram because look, it has 2 sets of parallel lines, but it doesn't have any right angles. In order for it to be a square, it has to have 4 right angles. Let's look at the square. All the sides are the same. It has 4 right angles, and it's a parallelogram. And it's a quadrilateral. Why? Because it has 4 sides. And it's a polygon. Why is it a polygon? Because it's a shape. One more. Here's the trapezoid. This is the one that always is an answer to a question, usually on a test, because it's the one that doesn't fit. How doesn't it fit? Because it's the only one that is not a parallelogram. Not a parallelogram. Why is it not? It only has 1 set of parallel lines instead of 2. Again, only the top and bottom are parallel, but the sides are going to crash.
You can use a Venn diagram to sort quadrilaterals and find out how they are related. Let's sort the quadrilaterals. First, let's separate the parallelograms and the trapezoids.
Okay, so this is crazy. Look at all these different shapes, right? Which ones are parallelograms? Again, meaning having two sets of parallel lines. And which ones are trapezoids, meaning they don't? Let's see.
A parallelogram has two pairs of parallel sides. So these shapes are parallelograms. Which quadrilaterals are trapezoids?
There's a trapezoid. Remember, it has a top and bottom, then the slanted sides. There's a trapezoid. There's a trapezoid. So I think I saw three.
A trapezoid has
no, it says this one is
one
not.
pair of parallel sides.
Oh, I know. This one doesn't have any.
These shapes are trapezoids.
Sorry. The reason that this
now,
one...
let's take a closer look at the parallelograms. Rectangles are one type of parallelogram.
Okay, before I click which ones are rectangles, the reason why this one wasn't is because it doesn't have any parallel sides. You see how this one and this one, because this is slanted too, it doesn't have any sets of these. It has to have at least one set to be. So this is going to be like nothing.
A rectangle is a parallelogram with four right angles and two pairs of perpendicular sides. These are both rectangles.
Notice
a rhombus is also a type of parallelogram.
Notice before I click that all of this is in a sheet called quadrilaterals because they're all four-sided shapes. It's just classifying them into their groups.
A rhombus is a parallelogram with four congruent sides.
So there are your slanted rectangles,
so
basically.
Are rhombuses. Finally, let's sort the squares. A square is both a rhombus.
All right, let's
There's
watch one
often
more.
More than one way to
Last
classify a shape.
So we're trying to find all the names.
Four congruent sides. Select all of the possible classifications for this shape. When you're ready, check your work.
Okay, I really like this. So this is kind of like what your homework's going to look like tonight. You're going to have a shape, and you have to name the shape, first of all. What is this called? And then what else are the properties of it? So what else is it? So it's more than one thing. First of all, you always think of the name. Hey, look at over there. That's a square. But what else is the square? It can have more names. That's kind of what you're learning today, okay? So if you take a look at this one, first of all, is it a parallelogram? Well, it would have to have two sets of lines that will never touch. Well, look, the sides will never touch. The top and bottom will never touch. That's good. So it is a parallelogram. Is it a four-sided shape? Quadrilateral, yes. Is it a rectangle? No. Why is it not a rectangle? Because a rectangle has to have right angles. Remember the perfect L's? It doesn't have any. Is it a trapezoid? No, because a trapezoid only has one set of parallel lines, and this one has two sets of parallel lines. Is it a square? Nope, because there's no right angle. So is it a rhombus? Is it like a diamond or a kite? Yes.
Good job.
I'm a little rusty. It's been, you know what, a year since I've did these.
A parallelogram, and a rhombus.
So if you guys are confused, it's okay.
Now let's practice with the personal math trainer.
Let's not. All right, let's get over to our notes for a few minutes. You guys have been very patient. Maybe this is a good time to take a break if we're already 15, 20 minutes into this. It's going to be a long one today, but let's get over and take some notes on quadrilaterals. All right, so here's our notes. Now, I met with some kids for conferences yesterday, and one of the things I had my distance learning parents check for is check kids' notebooks. Is your notebook organized? Can you look back and find notes from, let's say, 3-4, from March 4th? Could you find them? What did we learn about that day? Could you study those notes? All of those types of things are what makes a great student. You want to keep yourself organized. That's really going to help you for middle school. So let's go with that's supposed to be an L. Laterals. And today is 3/30. We're almost to April 21. And right here where it says quad, let's do 4. And lateral, meaning side. So we're going to do four-sided shapes, okay? Now, how I want you to take the notes is make a big umbrella. This is my giant umbrella. Oh, I hear Mr. Gilroy coming in. Door is opening. Gilroy is entering. Say hi to the kids.
Really?
No, I'm not live. I'm recording their video.
Oh, sorry.
But don't worry.
Are they really
I digress.
there?
No, they're not there. I'm recording the
I know,
video
but
for
are
them.
they on the camera right now?
Yes, they are. Say
Boys
hi.
and girls, it's way too early for Mr. M to be doing this. So it just shows his full measure of devotion to you guys. What do you call that? I call that a ATV.
There it is. An ATV, yes, but also known as a quad.
A quad.
A four-sided.
A four-
Because quad means four. Because that's what we're learning today, Mr. Gilroy.
Quadrilaterals.
Maybe not in fourth grade. Quadrilaterals. Four-sided shape.
Quadrilaterals, baby. Hey, if you add all the angles, they add up to
360.
360 degrees. It's a miracle of nature. Or geometry.
There you go. You guys got a special guest appearance by Mr. Gilroy this
Hey, I'll be
morning.
back with the guitar.
With the winning lottery numbers. All right. Excellent. All right. Back to this. Hopefully this is recording now still, because now this video, I'm well into re-record it. Okay. So we're deep in, kids. Okay. So here's my umbrella. For a guy that does doodles today, I think my umbrella could probably use a little bit more love here. So if you're bored with taking these notes, you know what? Make your umbrella look awesome. But the reason I'm doing the umbrella is under this umbrella, everything under here is going to be a quadrilateral. It's going to be all a four-sided shape. The problem is we have to classify them. So I like to put, let's think of some names of some rectangles. Some quadrilaterals. I got rectangle. I've got square. I've got parallelogram. And I got rhombus. Now, also a four-sided shape, but over on this side, because it's kind of like the loner, the one that's different, is a trapezoid. I want to make sure I spell it right. It's an E. Trapezoid. All right. So all of these on this side, all of these, this one has 4 right angles, right? Oh, forgot the end. 4 right angles and opposite sides are equal. So a rectangle, the opposite sides are equal, and it has 4 right angles, and all of these 4 on this side are all, let me do it in green, are all parallelograms. These are all parallelograms, all of these. Why? Because they all have 2 sets of parallel lines. What is a square? Square has 4 right angles, and a square has 4 sides equal. So all the sides are equal, right? A parallelogram does not have any right angles, 0, right? But I'm not going to write that. But it does have opposite sides parallel, and a parallelogram has opposite sides equal. So basically, this is like a slanted rectangle, and a rhombus is like a slanted square or a diamond. And then finally a trapezoid. Let's draw one because I feel like kids don't know what a trapezoid is. It looks like this. It can look different, but most commonly it looks like this. And a trapezoid only has, this is what's big about it, 1 set of parallel lines, not a parallelogram. Parallel, only 1 R. Oh my gosh. Parallelogram. It's not a parallelogram. Questions always ask that. So let me just do one thing now. This will get you ready for your homework. I know this has been a long lesson today. Let me draw this shape right here. Fifth graders, let's name all the things that this is. This is a rectangle. This is a parallelogram. This is a rectangle, parallelogram, quadrilateral. Why? Because it has 4 sides. And it is something called a polygon, which just means a shape. So let's put a big star over here. I forgot to put that. Polygon just means shape. So a rectangle is a rectangle, but it is also called many other things. So with that said, let me just pop over what your homework looks like, and then we will end this exciting lesson on quadrilaterals. So let me pop back up. I think I was right there. Still there, okay. Let me pull this over. Hope you can see this. This is what your homework sheet's going to look like. There's only 8 problems total. And all you have to do is name all of the things that this is. So if you look at number 1, let's look at number 2 actually. Let's look at this one quickly. Your choices are quadrilateral, parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square, and trapezoid. But you have to name it in all the things that it is. So the first thing that I would put is that is a quadrilateral. These all are. They have 4 sides. So it is a quadrilateral. Then what is it a parallelogram? Does it have 2 sets of lines that will never touch? Yes, this side will never touch this side, and this side will never touch. So it is a parallelogram. And then what is the name of it? This is look at all the sides are the same. So it is a slanted square or a diamond, which is a rhombus. Okay, because remember, a parallelogram, this one would be a slanted rectangle. Like it actually is not on here. So anyway, just do your best. We'll go over it tomorrow in class. When I see you before we kick off coding and game design, we will look at both classifying triangles, practice a few, and rectangles, and that'll be it. So thank you for being great listeners. It is Tie Tuesday. I hope you have a great day, 22 minutes long. I know that when you guys see that, you're all going to cringe and be like, any video over 8 minutes is impossible. Well, you survived.